Hello, Professor. This is the Week 7 overview video presentation of progress of the SAFMEDS data, which you know because it is posted under this heading, so obviously you know that. Um, so, first things first, I think my progress has been sufficient as far as my progress with SAFMEDS during this course. I am looking here on Precision X. I'm looking at the tables that are presented as opposed to the graphs, which are a little bit harder to read. Um, so first off, I started week 2 for SAFMEDS. I kind of skipped week 1 for whatever reason, so I had to work extra hard to get to the aim goal in week 2. So my first trial for Deck 1 was a ratio of 9 to 2 A cells to D cells, and I finished the week at 16 A cells and 0 D cells. So um, really progressed really well for Deck 1 in just 1 week. Um, then for Deck 2, it took me a little bit longer. I had a better start. I started at 12 A cells to 0 D cells. Um, at the end of the first week of Deck 2, I ended at 14 A cells and 0 D cells, so still met the aim goal, but there wasn't that much variability. I only went up to, which yes, was to the aim goal, but still not as good of progress as I would have liked to have made. But by the end of the second week, I had went from then 14 A cells, 0 D cells to 16 A cells, 0 D cells. So I was able to reach it there. And then very similar from Deck 2 to Deck 3, where I started at 11 A cells, 1 D cell. At the end of that first week, I was at 14 A cells, 0 D cells, and by the end of the second week with Deck 3, I was at 16 A cells, 0 D cells. So, kind of a breakdown in my studying. The most studying that I did was definitely for Deck 1 because I was really pushing to catch up. Considering I didn't do anything week 1, week 2, I really wanted to make sure I was studying a lot. So, first off, my general study methods was I basically run untimed trials of SAFMEDS, where instead of having a 30-second timer, looking at the definition and matching it to the term, I just don't have a timer on. And I go through as many of the cards as I can, ideally the entire deck at least once. So in the case of Deck 1 for Week 2, according to my SAFMEDS assignment for Week 2, I study my cards 3 times a day for 5 to 7 minutes per study session. That was fantastic for me. You really can see the numbers reflected in my data there. Um, Afterwards, even just for the beginning of Deck 2, which is Week 3, um, it says here I studied literally only twice, only 2 times over the week, but each study session was about 15 minutes long, which I think is still pretty good. I mean, certainly it's a longer duration. Um, Definitely is best, though, if I'm studying multiple times throughout the week, ideally once a day, even if I have the material down, just to review it, for 3 to 5 minutes, even less. I think that would probably be more effective overall. Um, and now for Deck 3, where I'm at, as I mentioned in my SAFMEDS assignment, I'm not even doing any studying outside of running trials. Running the trials is my study time, which is not ideal at all. Basically, as far as did I meet my objectives for the course, my objectives for the course were to reach the aim goal. To be transparent, after the first course in National University's MSABA program, I realized I was really, really crushing it with SAFMEDS, but there were a lot of other things in my professional and personal life that weren't really balanced. So I kind of have made this conscious decision to not overexert myself in my schooling so that I can bring more balance, mostly to my personal life. So I've met my objectives for the course. Do I think it's necessarily indicative of like my best work? Absolutely not. But considering that I'm going past the aim goal, 16 A cells to 0 D cells is perfectly fine with me and meets my objectives. Well, thank you so much, Professor, and I look forward to seeing you next week in class.